Hi there, my name is Gina, and I'm your host for this Discussant interview segment. With me today, I am joined by Josephine. She is the founder of African Podfest, and she is going to introduce herself right away so you can get to know her better. There you go, Josephine.
Thank you so much, Gina. Hi, everybody. My name is Josephine Karianjahi, and I am one of two co-founders of Africa Podfest. If you've been working on podcasting in and around Africa, about Africa, you know that Africa Podfest has been celebrating African podcasters all the way since 2019 when we started out. If you are a fan of African podcasts, you have celebrated Africa Podcast Day, and that was founded by Africa Podfest. So, whenever you see us, you never, ever, ever miss an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to connect. Together with myself and my co founder, Melissa Mbogwa, and an amazing team of creatives from across Africa and Africans around the world, we are Africa Podfest, and we are a community of people who just want to see the best in African podcasting at all levels, and we want to be here for a long time to come. We are super interested in the amplification of voices that haven't been heard in traditional media, like women, young people, people who don't have access to enough resources. We also have so many podcasters we've met who are living with disabilities, who are also LGBT plus minorities, who are ethnic minorities in the regions they're in, and people who speak all the languages you know, love, and respect across Africa. So, Africa Podfest is a company headquartered in Kenya, focused on Africa, with the single goal of making the African podcast ecosystem grow. We do podcast production. So, if you've heard any of our podcasts, like our Sema Nasi podcast on African podcasting, or you've listened to the all new Africa Renewal podcast, you've heard our voices and you've heard many of the people who are making an impact across Africa. If you are a data person, you have heard us on the Discovery Tour of African Podcast Research, the Is This Micon Research Report, all the way from 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019. And we are going to keep going with research to give you, the podcast listener, and the podcast audience all the insights you need to make good decisions about content, the direction of your podcast, and to discover what is happening across the world of African podcasting. We are super excited to be the bringers together of lots of amazing gatherings from different parts of the continent. We've been doing virtual gatherings, we've done in-person gatherings, and we can't wait to show you what's coming up next for African podcasting. So we are super excited to join you all for the African Podcasters and Voiceover Artist Awards.
Yes.
And we are excited to be part of this day today.
Okay, awesome. I'm super excited to hear all of that. That is just showing us the future is so bright, and I am definitely proud to be part of this as well as the rest of the APVA organization. So I'm just going to head into three questions that I would like you to answer. The first one is, what significant impact have you noticed since AfroPodFest was founded or was created?
Well, we started off Africa Podfest, and it came from a strong sense that African podcast voices need to connect with the world of African podcasting. And because there was so much innovation happening in the way podcasts are made in the global south, and in particular in Africa, we wanted to make sure that our participation was not just spectators, but really agents of our own growth, change, development, and also developing a sustainable audio and podcast industry across Africa. And so, one of the things that we want to do and that we found has really grown is that there's a huge awareness of African podcasts and what they can do across the world.
Okay, fantastic. Then the second question for you is, the Africa Podcast Day is the most celebrated day in the continent. What led to this discovery, and how does this amplify African voices?
So, Africa Podcast Day was born out of this strong sense that African podcasters need to be celebrated in the world,
Yes.
and not just as part of a huge group of international podcasters who are awesome, by the way, but
Yes.
really because Africa is redefining itself in so many ways. We are a very young continent, and the way that podcasters have embraced the space, the way that people are using media to really amplify their podcasts and to really connect with their audiences, and also to preserve the culture and heritage across so many countries, is something that should be celebrated annually. And there should be opportunities for African podcast players to connect on Africa Podcast Day in person or virtually, depending on what they choose to do. So, Africa Podcast Day is not just for one or two people. It's not exclusively to Africa Podfest. It's for African podcasters. We are just really fortunate enough to have the privilege of holding the space and creating it and then sharing it with the world.
Fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that. And then your last question is, this is just in general, Africa Podfest, right? The whole idea is amplifying African voices. Do you have a specific message? Let's say somebody is in the audience and they're just listening and they have no idea where to start or how to go about maybe creating a podcast or even to define the content they will share. What would be the best advice you would give to that person listening today?
Dear person listening, start with where you are and with what you have. The resources that are in your space might seem like very limited, but you can start exploring how to create great podcasts, learn what your unique contribution is, and amplify the work of other podcasters and learn from each other. You can connect with other people because we've been doing this work of like bringing people together as Africa Podfest, as APVA, Niger Pod Hub, Podfest Cairo, and so many other groups across the continent. You are not alone, and you can start today with what you have. Learn as much as you can, be super hungry for the information, and have fun with it. You
Yes.
have a unique voice across Africa and the world. You are bringing a lot to the table. All you need is a little bit of courage,
Yes.
amplifying your voice, and taking space. The rest we can do together.
Thank you so much for sharing and actually joining us today for this segment. It was absolutely amazing to hear what you had to share. And to the listeners out there, I think the biggest thing is to just understand that times are changing and they're changing for the good, and we have to embrace that. And there's so much more that we can do. So, now to everybody listening, I would like you to guess who the Podcast of the Year award is going to. I am so curious and I am excited. Now, let's get back to the main event of the day.